we're starting to see that in a lot of markets, people are moving towards recovery. And so really trying to think through how to help in that new normal, right? What are the key channels you should be focusing on? And of course, that's from our perspective, everything digital, but your website, your social channels, SEO, paying your content. How are you getting out in front of those guests and working to build confidence, working to build demand, right? We all want demand, working to help improve conversion, and how do we drive people to actually convert and stay in our hotels? And then lastly, building trust, which I think is an essential element in helping to drive conversion, build demand, and build that confidence. As time goes on, and I know we have some content coming up in the next several months, weeks and months, talking about growth and how to kind of take it to the next level. But for today, we're really going to focus on recovery. So one of the things we're seeing, and I think we've all seen the articles here and there about different markets improving, but just as a whole over the search market. So this, for those of you that aren't familiar, is Google's trends. You can get search query data on any term you're interested in, but obviously we're looking at the travel sector, and we're seeing a lot of pickup in interest for things like open hotels. Are your hotel open? And then what we notice is that business hotels have stayed fairly flat, maybe a little growth uptick, but family hotels and leisure and vacation has definitely seen an increase. So Bob, from your perspective with HSMAI, what are the trends you're seeing in consumer behavior and hotels markets during the reopening?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Tammy. I mean, the best place to start is really what's happening with organic search trends, because that's tell you who's searching for what. There's been a number of traveler sentiment studies released. I think most of them are doing it weekly because things are changing so quickly, and there's so many variables in what's happening in different states and different countries and different market segments. We've tried to aggregate a lot of those sentiment surveys at HSMAI, so you can find a lot of them on our website for free, but they're also in our weekly insights newsletter that goes to all members. But clearly, one survey we did of our members globally said that 82% thought leisure was going to rebound first. And that's been validated by a lot of these other research trends. It depends on how you look at it, but in one case, there was one study said that the leisure would definitely come back first, but there were three things that were going to be the most important to travelers, even before you break down the market segments in recovering and returning to hotels. One was their health, two was their finances, and three was their safety. So I think regardless of which market segment we talk about, we've got to keep in mind in all of your marketing and your messaging, those three things that are on top of mind of all consumers today. Because, over the last 6 consecutive weeks, Deloitte has recently published a study that talks about that consumers' concern about their own health and the health of others has actually been declining over a 6-week period. It's still relatively high, but that trend is in the right direction. The same study talked about the consumers' concerns about making upcoming payments or delaying large purchases has also declined. So some of that anxiety's gone away. The travelers concern over the last 6 consecutive weeks about the safety of flying or staying in a hotel has also declined. So we're seeing everything trending in the right direction, but there's still a couple of wild cards out there. The hotel and travel industry has 2 major headwinds it's facing. One is really just the overall economy and the impacts of this pandemic. The other thing is going to be the pandemic itself, because there's still some wild cards out there about that, and that will continue to be a headwind. When you dive into leisure, though, one study in April said that only 24% were planning to spend their anytime this summer at a hotel. Well, by mid-May, that jumped to 31%. I mean, still a pretty low intention. At least the trend is positive. And if you've listened into any of the STR webinars or read any of the reports from the last few weeks, I think a number of people were surprised that on Memorial Day weekend, the top occupancy markets in the US were all beach vacations. And I think 3 of the top 5 were in Florida. And even a couple of those markets had year over year increases compared to last year. So there's clearly some pent up demand on the leisure side, and particularly the drive market's going to come back first. And I think the other markets we can talk about later as it relates to corporate travel, business travel, and meetings and conventions, but leisure will come back first. But you got to keep in mind the things they're still concerned about.